The world blinked, and Prince Louis vanished from sight. No more school appearances, no royal balcony waves, and no innocent smiles caught by the press. Overnight, the youngest beacon of the monarchy simply disappeared. And now, just moments ago, the palace confirmed why. But what they said is only half the story. Because behind that statement lies a trail of whispers, concealed documents, and one heart-wrenching decision that changed everything. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. For weeks, murmurs echoed through royal watching circles. At first, it seemed like a simple oversight. Perhaps a child staying home with a cold or simply being kept away from the media circus. But as event after event passed and Prince Louis remained conspicuously absent, those whispers turned into urgent questions. Why was the young prince so vibrant, so beloved, no longer part of the public stage? Then came the official engagements, those moments of tradition, carefully choreographed and deeply symbolic. Prince George stood tall beside his father. Princess Charlotte, poised as ever, offered her regal smile. But the space once filled by Louis' spark is empty. No explanation, no photographs, not even a mention in passing. Concern turned to confusion when 3 major royal appearances, each one expected to include the full Wales family, featured only 4 members. First, the Commonwealth Day service, then the Trooping the Colour, and finally, the Remembrance Sunday ceremony. Each time Louis was absent, each time the palace remained silent, and each time speculation intensified. The British public, known for reading between the royal lines, sensed something was off. For a monarchy so obsessed with image, this silence felt deafening. Was this an internal decision, a health concern, a quiet rebellion by the Welsh, or something far worse? The absence began to feel less like discretion and more like concealment. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. Just 1 minute ago, as headlines screamed across screens worldwide, the palace broke its silence. The statement was brief, clinical, almost too carefully worded. It referenced a decision made in the best interest of the young prince's well-being and cited a period of protected time away from public life. But for those who know how the royal machine operates, that language wasn't comfort. It was code. This wasn't simply about privacy. This was about something that had gone wrong, terribly wrong, because buried beneath the polished words was an unmistakable undertone, something chilling, something urgent. The palace was not just acknowledging Louis' absence. It was confirming that the decision to remove him from view wasn't temporary. It was the result of something bigger, something buried, something they could no longer control. And if history has taught us anything, it's that when the palace chooses silence, it's never without reason. This isn't the first time a royal child has been hidden away from public life. It happened before, with devastating consequences. The shadows behind the crown are long, and once a child disappears into them, the road back is rarely straightforward. But to understand the full weight of this disappearance, we must rewind to the first signs that something within the royal corridors was deeply, tragically wrong. Cameras captured it all, but no one paid attention. The last time Prince Louis stood beside his family on that iconic balcony, his body language whispered what his lips never said. Now, in light of the palace's bombshell confirmation, those overlooked moments take on a haunting new meaning. At first glance, it looked like every other celebration. The royal family assembled in full view, waving to the adoring public, offering smiles that seemed polished and practiced. But one figure, small and unassuming, stood differently. Prince Louis, usually animated and full of unpredictable charm, stood strangely still. His hands, often the source of viral mischief, remained clenched. His expression was blank, almost rehearsed. Frame by frame, what once appeared as childish shyness now reveals something deeper, something that was quietly pleading to be seen. A renowned child behavior analyst later dissected the footage. Her conclusions stunned those who took the time to listen. Louis, she said, exhibited signs of emotional withdrawal, averted eye contact, tense posture, and the kind of fidgeting that suggests internal anxiety rather than playful restlessness. She noted the way he subtly leaned away from the crowd, how his shoulders stiffened every time a cheer erupted from below. These weren't the actions of a child enjoying his moment. They were the silent red flags of someone struggling to hold it together. Then there was Catherine. To most, her elegant smile masked any trace of concern. But one moment, just one, stood out upon rewatch. A glance, barely a second. Her eyes flicked toward her son, not with pride but with worry. Subtle but unmistakable. A mother checking in, not for reassurance, but out of fear that something could go wrong. And in that fleeting look, her mask slipped. Even more unsettling was the signal. During the anthem, Prince William shifted slightly, eyes scanning the crowd and then landing on one of his senior aides, positioned discreetly behind the family. He nodded once, firmly, and the aide stepped back into the shadows. No one noticed at the time, but the implications now in hindsight are impossible to ignore. Was it a prearranged cue? A silent order to end Louis appearances after that day? Insiders say it wasn't the first time William had taken matters into his own hands when it came to protecting his children. And then there's what the press didn't print. A handful of photographers sworn to royal protocol later admitted in confidence that they were given strict instructions. No close-ups of Louie, no solo shots, no lingering lenses. One even described receiving a discreet embargo request hours before the event, an instruction that baffled them at the time. But now it fits perfectly into a puzzle we never realized we were assembling. That final balcony appearance wasn't just another royal tradition. It was a silent farewell. The kind is orchestrated not with words, but with glances, stillness, and quiet retreat. The palace knew what was coming, the family knew, but the public was left to cheer for a moment that in reality marked the beginning of a disappearance. Yet the signs didn't stop at the balcony, because inside the palace, a growing storm was quietly spiraling out of control. She tried everything to shield him from protocols, from pressure, from the crown itself. Catherine, once seen as the monarchy's calm center, became its most desperate protector. And behind the palace's pristine walls, she begged for one thing: let him go. Behind the palace gates, where tradition governs even the softest of whispers, a different story was unfolding. One of a mother's silent wars against a machine too powerful, too polished to allow deviation. It began quietly. Handwritten letters, private, raw, and filled with the kind of worry that only a mother could voice, found their way to King Charles and selected senior aides. In them, Catherine pleaded for her son to be spared. She didn't ask for pity. She asked for space, for compassion, for a pause from the endless performance that was slowly unraveling her child. In those letters, Catherine detailed what no press photo ever showed. Emotional shifts at home, sudden tears without cause, Louis retreating into silence, his once carefree laughter now replaced by anxious murmurs and quiet questions. She noted how he flinched at the sound of camera shutters, how he resisted royal tutors, and how he began hiding during visits from palace aides. It wasn't tantrums, it was a cry for help. Yet, even as she bore witness to her son's inner collapse, Catherine was forced to navigate the suffocating duality of her role. She wasn't just a mother, she was the future queen consort. Every move she made had political weight. Every request came under scrutiny, and as her desperation grew, so did the resistance. Palace advisors warned her that withdrawing Louis would spark rumors, headlines, and panic. They urged silence. They advised control. Preserve the image, they said. But Catherine wasn't thinking of the monarchy's image. She was thinking of her child. Her internal conflict became unbearable. There were nights she reportedly refused to attend engagements unless the matter Louise was addressed. Senior staff described a shift in her demeanor, once poised and diplomatic, now tense and unyielding. One aide recalled Catherine walking out of a planning session after a remark was made about managing the Louis situation. The next day, she sent another letter. This time, it was more than a request. It was an ultimatum. Everything came to a head when Louis expected to appear at a ceremonial unveiling alongside his